What's going on, guys? This is Keel Dyken, and we're back with another exciting Raspberry Pi 5 image. This time, this one is brought to you by Rapid Edwin. He's another builder in the arcade community, Retropie community. And so he also helped with the Supreme build as well. Supreme also kind of helped him out with this one. However, this is his own custom personal image, which you can now find on retropieuk.org. It is available there. There are a few tips that you need to go through in order to get it set up. The official base does not include any ROMs or a BIOS, and the file size is approximately 14 gigabytes. So as long as you have a 32 gigabyte memory card or SD card or higher, then you can go ahead and get this installed. We'll take a look at this briefly. We're going to take a look mostly at some of the setups. As you guys know, a lot of the emulation is going to be very similar to what you've seen on the Pi 4. So all your NES, Sega basic stuff, your Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Atari stuff, all that stuff is going to run. However, I did spend some time running some PlayStation 2 emulation on here, and it was fairly decent, so it really won't be too much different from what you guys have seen in the past. Now, however, with PlayStation 2 emulation, I have to warn you, you will have to spend some time adjusting your own personal settings according to your own liking, and every emulator needs its own tailoring. It's not like some of the other emulators where you kind of set up an overall config and then kind of everything just kind of works. But the cool thing is, as I've said in a previous video with Raspberry Pi 5, we do have some Dreamcast emulation which will run really good. Sega Saturn. The harder to run emulator games obviously will run. If you guys have watched some of the other Raspberry Pi 5 videos, those will all run too if you're familiar with, let's say, Carnival, some of the other arcade sets, Die Hard the Arcade. Nintendo 64 emulation is really decent as long as you set up all of your settings, as well as some additional new emulators. We have the Nintendo Wii, and of course, again, we have PlayStation 2 emulation. But before we get into some of the additional gameplay, let's take a look at some of the additional settings that he has included. I didn't fully load this one up because, again, I don't want to be too repetitive with some of this, but the base image is pretty cool here. So he's a huge Doom fan. He's added a lot of ports on here. So you have Doom Ultraviolence, Doom DOS Edition, Final Doom, Freedom Phase 2. These are some additional things that he added on here, as well as desktop. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the settings. We have network tools where your Bluetooth controller can be configured, RetroArch NetPlay, Show IP, Wi-Fi. We also have system tools here. This will allow you to overclock your Pi. You have your themes. Again, if you guys are familiar with Emulation Station, this allows you to change your overall aspect on here. But everything here is quite different. I know he does have a lot of different personalized themes on here. We also have our overclock script. We'll click on this for just a brief second. And he has 3 additional overclock settings for you. So apply 900 megahertz to the GPU if you just want to overclock the GPU. We also have the 2800 megahertz medium overclock. And then, of course, this is for the CPU. And then over on the CPU, if you want to take it up a step higher, is 2900 megahertz. Now, for those of you wondering, how did these numbers come to be? I spent some time testing it. And if you guys have watched my previous videos and my other forums and whatnot, this was kind of the sweet spot for overclocking some of these. So make sure that you please have ample cooling. If you're going to overclock, I suggest an open air cooler, or make sure you have something that has a good thermal pad on there. I do not suggest overclocking in an enclosed case, and make sure that you have an additional fan or something kind of blowing on that, or go with the Raspberry Pi 5 official cooler. So all of these settings will work. This will send your Raspberry Pi 5 to the max, and you guys should be happy gaming. But I will say I haven't noticed too much of a difference with some of the emulation, maybe PS2 by overclocking the GPU or whatnot, but all this is pretty fun to work with. And if you want to go into your configs and edit that to get your own custom configs, and you could go ahead and do that as well. We also have a boot selector, so this allows you to boot between Retropie, desktop, and also Emulation Station there. And we also have our utilities. We have OpenBore, Atari Tweaks, Chocolate Doom Plus, and then of course, again, he really loves some Doom here. Raspberry config RetroArch Retropie setup. This will allow you to install all of your emulators, your drivers. If you guys have a unique controller type, this will allow you to set up all of your drivers for that. But other than that, this is a really cool image. You also have Kodi here if you guys want to watch some movies. Neo Geo, Sega Saturn. Let's jump into a couple of games here. I loaded this up with Ultimate Alliance. I haven't maxed out or done anything with this on the additional emulator. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. We have asterisks in it. And then of course you can adjust your video settings here as well. And again, I'm not too familiar. Is it asterisks or Ether? I think it's called Ether. I'm not sure. I think it's Ether SX2. That could be the correct pronunciation. So let's go ahead and launch in here. Now you need to have a keyboard set up with this. I think big box mode for the PlayStation 2 emulator might be already set up on here, but just in case, you also want to have a keyboard that'll work in conjunction with this as well. All right, here we are booting up into Marvel Ultimate Alliance on PlayStation 2. This is a pretty fun game. It's one of my favorite Xbox games of all time. It's a 4-player game, pretty set up. Haven't played it. I'm not sure if it should be 4-player compatible on the PS2, but I'm just starting this up so you guys can get a basic idea about what the emulation will look like on the Raspberry Pi 5 image from Rapid Edwin. All right, so once we're in the game, we'll go ahead and start it. Really curious. This is actually the first time I've loaded up this game on the PlayStation 2 emulator on here. So, oh wow, we got 2 players on here, right? Let's see if I can go back. Let's see, manually. There we go. All right, looks somewhat semi-smooth. I don't have a frame rate counter up, but it looks pretty decently. I mean, obviously I can go in here and kind of tweak it to make it run a little bit faster, but this is your stock speed as far as the gameplay. You can increase this. There's several tweaks that you can go through here in PlayStation emulator and actually increase some of the frame rates that are on here. Let's go ahead and skip ahead. So the game looks like it's running pretty decently. I don't have anything overclocked right now, but gameplay seems to be pretty smooth. We've made a lot of advancements here in the past several months, and again, I can not underestimate the effort that we spent with the Orange Pi 5 to really kind of get us to better understand some of these higher to end emulators. I know there hasn't been a lot of people dabbling with this kind of emulation on a single board computer, but again, this is the recommended emulator for single board computers. As I've mentioned in my last video, PCFX2, which is another PlayStation 2 emulator, runs really great on PC, but it's not really optimized for single board computers. And so as you can see here, there's no slowdown time, there's no lag. I managed to do a few supers without any type of graphical issues, but overall it was an enjoyable experience. And I know most of you will be downloading this for free. It's nothing to complain about, but it's just nice to know where we are right now and to get you guys to experience the additional power that the Raspberry Pi 5 has to offer. Now, I do know that it was possible to load up PlayStation 2 emulation on the Raspberry Pi 4, but it just wasn't optimized. I mean, it couldn't handle any of this kind of stuff. And if I actually knew what the specs were at that time for PlayStation 4 emulation, or PlayStation 2 emulation actually, I never would have even paid some of those videos any attention, because it just wasn't even worth it. The power is not even there. So again, make sure you guys have additional cooling for this. When you run PlayStation 2 emulation, it does send your Raspberry Pi or Orange Pi or any single board computer device up another 20 degrees on average, and that's not factoring in any type of additional overclock. So again, you got to make sure you watch your voltages when it comes with this. And next up, we got one of my personal favorites, Virtual Cop 2. This is the second level, so I hope you guys really enjoy this. I love kind of showcasing the same game so that way you guys could get a better idea of the emulation, that the performance is pretty much going to be the same for a number of, well, pretty much for the number same for a lot of these emulators. I mean, I know there's going to be a difference with some of the different teams, maybe Recall Box and Batted Syrup for the most part. But I've gone through and tested all of these, and so it does perform the same way as regard as the Supreme Ultra if you guys adjust your settings corresponding to the correct emulator. I'm using an Xbox Elite One controller. And preferably, if you are using one of these images, it's best to use an SD card. I mean, not an SD card, but a USB storage card. Those are a little bit faster, but right now I'm using a 64 gigabyte SanDisk Extreme, so you'll get some pretty good quality out of it. However, you will be able to access those faster speeds if you use a flash drive. Or you can use one of my personal favorites, one of those Samsung storage devices, like a T7 or a T500 or T5 actually. Those work pretty well too. Now there is going to be some variation in performance between a number of these different games. Some PlayStation 2 games require Vulkan, which is what we are using, and then some prefer OpenGL or software mode. So it's really going to be hit and miss. However, right now on the Raspberry Pi 5, we don't have OpenGL or software mode available for PlayStation 2 emulation. So again, certain games will be hit and miss depending upon how you adjust your settings. So all in all, this is a pretty good image to get you guys started. This one, again, will require a little bit more of a setup just by transferring your basic BIOS. I think some of the other images probably will have those included, but if you are looking for a decent clean base that will help get you started, then you could go ahead and check out this image. Doesn't take too long to download. I'm not sure if it's, I think I downloaded it with Omega. I want to say I don't think that there's an official torrent for that, and I'm not sure what the cap limits are, if many people are going to be downloading it, and I'm not sure if Arcade Punks will be using this or hosting it in the future. But let's quickly move on to our desktop. I want to give you, I know you spent some time on this as well, so it's only fair to check it out. And here we have our Trinity desktop environment. Looks pretty sweet. And if you want to get straight into PlayStation 2 emulation directly from the desktop, you do have that option here as well. And of course, we could go ahead and hit start. We'll take a look at some of the development and all the games and everything that he does have here. It has Doom, so you can run Doom on here directly from the desktop if you want. We got some card games, graphics. You have your internet browser here. This is very close to a Windows 98 look. Definitely want to give him props on that. I know he's really into that retro MS-DOS, Windows 95, Windows 98 type feel, so I definitely understand where he's coming from. We also have your multimedia here as well. Settings, fully clean. So if you're looking for an image where you can just kind of bounce back and forth between a desktop working environment and a retro gaming experience, then you can go ahead and check this out. But for now, we're done. I do have some additional testing that we will be completing. I know I really haven't gotten into my Raspberry Pi 5 full review and tutorial. We will be hitting that soon. But we definitely want to make sure that we support Rapid Edwin. He spent a lot of time and work that's out there. He's also made some other contributions in the community. And I wasn't sure if a lot of people were fully aware that he released his base image, which he's really been working on here for the past several weeks. So with that being said, you make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll have some additional follow-ups here for you, as well as some other retro gaming images. And I'm sure here in the next few days, probably next couple of weeks, you guys will get some Raspberry Pi 5 retro gaming images. So stay tuned, and I will catch you guys later. Peace out and have a great day. Bye-bye.